So, Noreen, I just have one quick question. Mr. Oakley, Mr. Sifton were talking about Compassion International, and I wonder the experience that Compassion International is going through. Um, are other NGOs facing this kind of harassment to the magnitude that Compassion International seems to do, or to be hassled? And what should, in your opinion, we have a new administration coming in, what should that administration say to the Indian government, knowing full well that our relationship with India is a very important and strategic relationship, getting warmer, getting better? We all like it. We all think it's important. We think it's the Indian diaspora here in the United States plays a major role. You know, it's sort of a delicate diplomatic move where you want to whisper in your friend's ear and you want to tell them that, you know, you are not happy with certain things, but you don't want to worsen the relationship. You don't want to ruin it. How do we create that delicate balance? What should we be doing now?
Thank you for a very good question. Let me start with the first one, which is in some sense easier, even if it's not a very positive answer. Is Compassion International alone in its experience? The short answer is no. As I said, you know, over 11,500 NGOs have not had their licenses renewed over the last couple of years. Now, to be fair, a lot of these are affiliates of foreign-backed NGOs. The FCRA regulations require that any money that's dispersed to an association by, say, Compassion International, that the recipients of that money have to also have FCRA licenses. So, you know, there's a lot of associations. High-profile examples that have already been mentioned are Greenpeace, but others include the National Endowment for Democracy, the Ford Foundation, both of which ran afoul of FCRA regulators, lost their licenses, and only after some negotiations has the Ford Foundation, for instance, been reinstated, though under a completely different instrument of the Indian government that is arguably just as stringent and intrusive in managing how the Ford Foundation will function. So I don't think this is just about Compassion International. I think it's very widespread and quite broad. The broader question of, you know, how do we do this in a way that recognizes that this is an important relationship, that these are very centrally sensitive domestic politics questions in India. The core issue, I think, in a lot of this discussion is that the Indian government is deeply concerned, and has been across governments, but maybe more so today, about religious harmony, or put differently, the risk of communal discord at the local level. This communal discord occurs when local actors complain that a local association is using its NGO status to proselytize, to evangelize, to convert people to Christianity, even if that is not in fact what they're doing. This then, you know, percolates up to Delhi, where the Ministry of Home Affairs will then choose to investigate. So I think the Indian government is increasingly, because of its own definition of anti-national activities, likely to put a real damper on many of these sorts of things. And yet, the diplomatic relationship is very deep. There is a great deal of concern in India that we will return to a transactional relationship between the India and the United States as opposed to a strategic relationship. This is meant to suggest that what India won't respond well to is being told, if you don't do this, here's what we're going to pull away, right? They want to see a strong, deep relationship that can survive temporary disagreements. But I think on our end, that requires that we take them at their word for it and be willing to ask very hard questions about this. You mentioned the diaspora population, so let me say in closing, the diaspora population in the United States is an extremely generous, charitable population that gives back to India lots of money benefiting education and social services. All of that money is also at risk if FCRA is used to go after charitable organizations that the Indian government sees as being unpleasant. American businesses doing work in India are going to be held under corporate social responsibility requirements. All of those contributions are going to be at risk if suddenly the Indian government can scrutinize how those monies are given. So this is not just about a particular NGO and a particular agenda. This really becomes a relationship of all American citizens who want to contribute to India's development, suddenly worrying about whether their money is going to be impounded, whether their partners in India are going to be scrutinized and at the risk of criminal offenses. So I think we have great diplomats. I applaud Ambassador Verma for the work he's done while he's been in office. I think he should be empowered by you to continue to speak frankly to a good friend in India, and hopefully the conversation will improve rather than worsen.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr.